Honourable Member for Castries North.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you this afternoon for the opportunity to speak on this very vital and critical infrastructure development project here in St. Lucia. And so, as Minister responsible for infrastructure, ports, energy, and labour, I think it is imperative that I stand in support of this, this motion, be it transformative or alternative. The intention is to arrive at a destination that is to the benefit of St. Lucia and all the people of St. Lucia. But, Mr. Speaker, during today's debate, quite a bit was said, quite a bit of allegations were made in an attempt to put forward the position of each and every parliamentarian who spoke on the perspective to which this resolution has been presented, or this motion has been presented to the Parliament. Among some of the statements made, Mr. Speaker, in an attempt to cast doubt and to bring about a level of fear in the minds of St. Lucians, reference was made to the construction of a bridge in the cul-de-sac valley by the parliamentary representative for Castries South. Obviously, I shall never ever leave the parliamentary representative for Castries South in the dark when it comes to matters pertaining to his constituency, and will always, at all times, ensure that he's informed of what is taking place in his constituency. Now, I have heard I have heard many statements made. I have seen and heard many individuals giving their view of the particular bridge, and I hope you allow me that latitude to go at a sort of at a tangent, the cul-de-sac bridge. And I wish to clear the air for fear that the parliamentary representative for Castries South and probably his other colleagues will not in any way make submissions to this Parliament that are misleading. What I intend to do, Mr. Speaker, is to read from a document not prepared by myself, and later on I may refer to another document, to really truly clear the air on this matter, so that the entire nation and parliamentarians opposite may understand exactly what this is all about. Mr. Speaker, in 2010, when Hurricane Thomas hit St. Lucia and devastated this country, apart from our own immediate response to cleaning up the country, without sitting back and waiting for other governments and other agencies to come forward to assist us, in the fog of what I call war, we're able to take certain decisions to bring the country back to normalcy within a very short space of time. However, there are a number of governments who saw that initiative, positive initiative on our part, and agreed to assist us, and one of them being Japan. After assessments were done, and they were satisfied of the areas that they should give us assistance, one of those areas being resilience and the need to build better and stronger, they agreed to look at the general cul-de-sac basin and to look at the 3 bridges which were under threat so far. But you will not find me wrong anyway. The cul-de-sac bridge was one because whenever it rained with unusual rainfalls, that river overflowed the bridge. The Mark Bridge, yes, was one, but also the Wavin-Poisson Bridge, the Odson Bridge, and the Ferrance Bridge. All of those bridges, Mr. Speaker, in one way or the other was considered by the Japanese after they did the technical assessment of being endangered in particular ways. So the cul-de-sac bridge was seen as one that needed to be elevated, a new bridge, so as not to impact negatively on the social and economic activity of the country after severe rainfalls. The Wavin-Poisson Bridge was examined, and it revealed that there were structural defects that needed to be addressed, and so the Japanese decided to look at this and to consider construction of a new bridge. The Ferrance Bridge was also looked at, and that too in itself seemed as another bridge that would need some attention. So the Japanese then decided to consider in the first round 2 bridges, the Wavin-Poisson Bridge and the cul-de-sac bridge. In all of the efforts, and it was all handled by the Japanese government in terms of sourcing the consultants, doing all the feasibilities, going through the process of tendering, etc., etc. The Japanese, who had agreed to an expenditure of 1.53 billion yen, which at today's rate may be about 36, 37 million EC dollars, decided that they will allocate this as the envelope for reconstructing the 2 bridges. Okay? I think you're ahead of time. Let me finish. So, Wavin-Poisson and cul-de-sac. The process went on, and upon the receipt and opening of the tenders, it was realized that the cost for the construction of the 2 bridges, the process of which was done entirely by the Japanese technicians and officials, they realized that the cost for the 2 bridges will not be able to build 2 bridges. So they gave the government some options. They gave the government some options. And the government was called upon to consider 2 things. One, to consider going ahead and building 2 bridges minus all of the ancillary or infrastructural complementary works to be done. Those works included, Mr. Speaker, such things as river retraining, the feeder roads which had to be redesigned and realigned. So in the case of the Millennium Highway, because of the span of the bridge and the height of the bridge, the approaches would have been much wider. So once you raise that bridge to reduce the elevation and the gradient, the slope, it would mean that the commencement of your entry onto the bridge or the ramping up of the bridge would have to be at a further distance. And therefore, that distance would have taken you to the junction of the Incommode Hill with the East Coast Highway. So, therefore, the Japanese government said, well, listen, we can build the 2 bridges, but you, the government, would have to build the banks, what we call the dikes, I think, the dikes, etc., and the feeder roads, and all of the other accessories necessary to make that possible. So the $36 million or $41 million which has been referred to is certainly not the cost of one bridge. That is the envelope. That is the envelope which the Japanese government had presented in the first place for the construction of the two bridges. So now, in the re-evaluation of the cost of the bridge, at some later date, we will find out exactly what that cul-de-sac bridge will cost. But you know, what is important is to really compare, and I hear a lot of comparisons being made, and I'm not one who compares what was done before and what is being done and how best we have done it, but once it is presented to me, then I've got to deal with it. Under the previous administration, two bridges were built. Two bridges, well, I refer to two of the bridges built. One is the Bonte Bridge with a span of 10.39 meters. 10.39 meters, costing 5.6 million EC dollars. Bois Bridge, 17.13 meters, costing $11 million. Cul-de-sac Bridge, which is 81 meters, 81 meters, not 17, not 10, not 9, 81 meters, is being reviewed as far as the costings are concerned. 81 meters, the span of the bridge. 81 meters. And that bridge is being reviewed. That's the span. No. It's the length. Well, when you say span is length. Span is across the bridge, across the river. Whatever you understand. Let's go. No, but I'm saying the length or the span is the length of the bridge across the river. That is the span.
Honorable member, please continue, sir.
Let me just go to the report or the statement which I've got before me, which deals with that situation. On the 9th of August 2017, the Japanese International Corporation, JICA, signed a grant agreement. That was in 2017. The project will construct the cul-de-sac bridge located in cul-de-sac. I'm just giving you a summary. Okay? Yeah, I mentioned that while you were out. The country, well, they mentioned the state of the country. Never $40 million. The basic information, Mr. Speaker, entails the reconstruction of the cul-de-sac bridge. Okay? For the three bridges, it would have taken 45 months. Okay? The Ministry of Infrastructure is the executing agency. The project details include reconstruction of the cul-de-sac bridge, length 81 meters. Okay? Width 10.5 meters and lanes 2 lanes. Okay? The span is also the length. Why are you making an issue out of that? It's still the same, it's the same thing. The span is the length, and you have the width of the bridge, which are the lanes. Anyway, we'll debate that at another time. Okay? Then the Wavin-Poisson Bridge, the length is 18 meters, the width is 9.5 meters. Okay? The levee protection construction, which is also in the cost, the levee protection construction, which is to prevent the flooding. Okay? The length, that's around the bridges. Then you have the construction of the access roads, cul-de-sac bridge, length 600 meters, lanes 2, etc., etc. So, Mr. Speaker, all of the propaganda that is out there about the bridge, one bridge costing $41 million, is inaccurate. The envelope was in the vicinity of $1.5 billion, which was for 2 million, which was for two bridges, and that equates to $240 million based on the rate of the yen. So I thought I should at least dispel this. So, Mr. Speaker, let's move to the motion before us. The motion before us, Mr. Speaker, is to authorize the Minister for Finance to guarantee a loan of US $100 million for the reconstruction of the Hewanorra International Airport. Okay? My thing is, what is the basis of the Minister for Finance coming to the Parliament to borrow money for such a project? The Minister for Finance did not wake up this morning and decided, or yesterday, that he's coming to borrow money for the Hewanorra International Airport. His authority is enshrined in the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority, an act which gives him the authority to come to the Parliament to give such guarantee. The Act says, Mr. Speaker, under Part 3, on the borrowing, the Act states, and if you would bear with me, Mr. Speaker, let me just get the section. I thought I marked it out earlier on. Okay. The Act states, Mr. Speaker, Section 28, with the approval of Parliament, the Minister may guarantee, and I just want to explain this. The St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority has a very unique arrangement of a kind of dual responsibility between the Minister for Finance and the Minister responsible for ports. Matters of finance is handled and directed and guided by the Minister for Finance. Matters of operations is handled and guided by the Minister for Infrastructure and Ports. So the minister in this case, which is being referred to, is the Minister for Finance. It says, with the approval of Parliament, the minister may guarantee in such manner and on such conditions as he or she may think fit the repayment of the principal of and the payments of interest and other charges on any authorized borrowing by the authority. It then goes on further. Where the minister is satisfied that there has been default, well, let me just go on the guarantee. And it says on the guarantee, so that authority is vested in the minister responsible for finance. On the borrowing, oh boy. So basically, Mr. Speaker, the Act gives the Prime Minister that authority. The Council, which is the Council of the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority, can only borrow when the Prime Minister, or rather the Minister for Finance, comes to Parliament and makes that request to Parliament. It is done in his own deliberate judgment as to whether the intention to borrow is sound, whether the Council has the ability to borrow and is sustainable enough to repay those monies, and the conditions and terms of the borrowing is one that meets the Financial Act of the country. So the question, Mr. Speaker, is that in making that determination, we here in Parliament, who must grant that approval, must ask a few questions. And for me it is the purpose for which the funds are to be borrowed socially and economically sound. Obviously, it is socially and economically sound. Obviously, it's an initiative that every administration, as far back as the administration of 1941, in the Second World War, it was seen there was the U.S. government saw the need in 1941 to develop Beanfield as an airport to protect what they thought was a country that needed protection. In 1974, Sir John Compton redeveloped Hewanorra International Airport and called it the Great D-Day, with the opening of a new seaport, new hotel facilities, new airport, etc., because it was the place at the time that we looked to as the next and future capital of the country. Successive governments kept on doing. In 1993, we remodeled the facility, which was first built by the Canadians, and I think it was at that time it was referred to as a New Frontier. And then the United Workers' Party got into office in 2006, and we took the decision that we must make Vieux part of a national vision plan. And so it must be asked, is the request for the guarantee within the framework of the law? The answer is yes, it is. It is within the framework of the law, because it means that the Minister for Finance, who is coming here ahead of granting the guarantee, that famous granting of guarantee that we have said time and time again, must be done before the actual action of signing a guarantee. It means that what we are doing here is certainly within the framework of the law. So in this case, Mr. Speaker, no one can say that it is a belated guarantee or delayed guarantee or forgotten guarantee. It is a guarantee being requested in accordance with the Finance Act.
Transparent.
And in keeping with the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority Act, which says that the minister responsible for finance, in his own deliberate judgment, having examined all of the terms and conditions, comes to the Parliament to make the request for a guarantee. Then it is, I ask, isn't it right for the Minister for Finance to first come to the Parliament? I've said it. It is right. But of course, isn't it the responsibility of the government and the Minister for Finance to take a position of wanting to improve on the infrastructure of this country and change the social and economic outlook of our people? Yes, I say it is. Because it has not only been done by this administration. The former administration, when they got into office, after we indicated what our vision plan was, and said that with an average of 400,000 visitors coming to our shores, having risen from 200,000 when Hewanorra was first developed, and the outlook for development, with the interest in St. Lucia, with the product that we offer, and the promising future of this country for our people, we cannot sit back and allow it to happen to us. We must make it happen for ourselves. So in our vision plan, apart from the 4 quadrants of the country, where we thought that in each quadrant we would allocate a specific economic activity for our young people and our people in general, we saw the South as that quadrant where the economic activity will be based on tourism, particularly, industry, and health. Therefore, as you can see, Mr. Speaker, and as you've heard, the thrust of this government is to look at, as far as the tourism aspect is concerned, is to build infrastructure through private sector investment in new hotels, new rooms, to bolster the number of rooms which we have on the country. But to do that, we must be able to have the airlift into the country, and in response to the new airlines that are coming in, Whether it's the 747s, triple Ns, or the 380s, or what you have, the whole intention is to build a facility that can carry the capacity of visitors to our country. You will hear very soon, Mr. Speaker, when we come to the Parliament again, that the next step that we are moving forward to is to secure an ideal location in the south of the country, in Vieux where a home port will be developed to now see Vieux as a home port country, rivaling Barbados and providing a facility that will bring even greater activity to the people of this country. But, Mr. Speaker, this can only come from a government who cares. This can only come from a government who has initiative. This can only come from a government with vision, and thank you for helping me. Because if we sit back and do not do these things, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Speaker rather, one day we may... Well, I'll come to how we do it.
Let's keep an eye on it.
On who?
On what?
Don't you worry. I'm keeping an eye on you too. So, Mr. Speaker.
Shot.
So, Mr. Speaker, our mandate at all times, is to do what we believe is right, do it right in the interests of the people of this country. Yeah. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we must not lose sight of that vision. So when we got in 2007 and we came and fashioned the method, fashioned the way forward, and engineered the process, there were those who said it will not work. We said we have confidence in what we believe. We said we believe we can make it work. And the initiative started, negotiations started, from a dream to actual negotiations. Unfortunately, the election came and we were unable to realize that dream. At the time, we introduced, the full story is that we exercised due diligence, which delayed us. That was it. That's the story. That's the story. Okay? But we introduced a mechanism to allow us to be able to finance the airport development charge. Yeah. We said, if we are going to build facilities, particularly to tourists, particularly to facilitate tourists, we said that there must be an airport development charge, which is everywhere, as you said earlier on. Every country in the United Kingdom, they put in airport development charges to develop their airports. Okay? No, I'm not boasting about it. I'm not boasting. I'm just saying we introduce an airport development charge. Okay? So the intention, therefore, was to create that revenue stream, Mr. Speaker, without undue pressure on our local people to finance the airport. Well, of course, the government who followed felt that that's not the way we want to go. And I respect them for that. I respect you for that, for saying, listen, we need to review the thing, and we want to go this way. You want to go with an international institution, which is highly respected, we respect you. You have presented your case, and in that makeup, or the strategy, it was a different concept of going with a PPP, through a concession. And in that concession, you have said, and I've listened, and you said that it was, you would have the concession over 30 years, that during that period of time, the concessionaire would have paid the government would have received taxes, would have received the rentals, etc., and you felt that this in itself, for 30 years, is the best way of going. We came back to office, and we said, you have not done it, you have failed to meet your deadline, and so we are here, we want to review it. Yes. We reviewed the proposal, and we took a position that we said, hey, as an independent people, we want to manage our own affairs in this regard. And in this regard, we said, this is a sound economic proposal that we believe we can handle with the resources at hand, with the human resources at hand. We can handle it and to deliver it within a shorter period of time. We understand that. So we said, let us look at it again. And so, Mr. Speaker, in the last 2.5 years, the Prime Minister and myself and others have been out there attempting to find the necessary resources to redevelop the Hewanorra International Airport. Among those who came forward, Mr. Speaker, is the government of the Republic of China on Taiwan, who offered us $150 million for infrastructure development. It's not a grant, it's a loan. It's a soft loan from the Export-Import Bank out of Taiwan. And for this, we decided our aging infrastructure needs attention. So we decided not simply to utilize the $150 million only to the airport, but to allocate $50 million for airport, schools, and housing, which we'll deal with a little later. What did I say? Roads, schools, and housing, and to utilize the $100 million for the redevelopment of the Hewanorra International Airport. We engaged, tried, tested, and proven architects and engineers who have been involved in major airport development projects in the United States, particularly Miami, and thought that we should probably rest our case there and continue what was started, for which the last administration purchased the last design and earned the rights to the design. Yes, and therefore we don't believe we should abandon it. Okay, I heard you now. So, I heard you. So we have decided to continue with the project through Harry and Tiwailen to reconstruct the airport with some changes to the design which was originally proposed. The first design entailed the construction of a new terminal north of the existing terminal, which means to the back of the existing terminal where the car park is. Following which the intention was to demolish the existing terminal and to provide sufficient room that would then allow us to qualify for what we call the recess away from the midline of the airport runway. However, after reconsidering what we were talking about, we felt and we proposed to the designers the need to look at the possibility of building a new terminal obliquely to the back of the existing terminal, which is probably in a north-northwest angle, north-northwest angle, that would allow us to keep the existing terminal, the old terminal, that can be used for an FOB. That proposal was received favorably, and as we speak, the designers are completing their designs, engineering and others, to ensure that we can make a formal presentation to the people of St. Lucia before the end of the year. Once the project is completed, Mr. Speaker, and the intention of the government is to seek other avenues, both grant and loan funds, to meet the total cost of the facility of $175,000. The government believes that we can start the project and in the meantime negotiate for the balance. The project will entail, as I said early on, a new terminal with modern facilities, jet bridges, modern cargo handling and luggage screening, etc., security, and all of the services needed at the airport. The Prime Minister has indicated that the terminal will be stacked with arrivals to the top and departures. Departures to the ground floor.
No, departures upstairs and arrivals.
Departures to the top and arrivals at the ground floor. In addition to this, a new control tower will be constructed. But more than that is the existing project of the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Program, which will deal with that river, which often floods the airport, to take that water away from the airport and to ensure that the airport is safe. Now, there's some proposals which have been presented that we can look at with the airport construction. In addition to the retraining and widening of the river to stay away from the airport runway, there's also the possibility of looking at an additional culvert or watercourse beneath the surface of the runway, which would certainly alleviate some of the issues we often encounter during the time of adverse weather. The runway, Mr. Speaker, which is 9,000 feet, the intention is to resurface the runway, and that will come in the second phase, where the runway will be resurfaced, the turning bay will be reconstructed and to be realigned in a proper way, but to ease some of the pressure which over the years we've had at the turning bay because of the maneuvering of the aircraft at that point, a taxiway will be established so as not to add that pressure on the turning bay. Because what is happening is because of the constraints of the turning bay, as that aircraft gets to the point of turning at the end of the runway to take off, just that turnaround and the wheels, the pressure on the pavement often deteriorates the pavement and often costs the government or SNASPA quite a bit of money. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we undertake this project. It is important that our friends on the opposite side understand the importance of the project. You may have a problem with what I call the method or the approach of the project, but you cannot doubt me that it is important that St. Lucia undertakes this project now and not later. Let's look what has happened.
We cannot suffer any further delays.
Let's look at what has happened since 2011. In 2011, we were speaking about the redevelopment of the airport. At that time, St. Vincent was talking about an airport. We warned, we need to do this airport because the only thing that can save us from St. Vincent is that St. Vincent doesn't have the room capacity to facilitate large aircrafts going in there. So whereas they have the international airport in St. Vincent, which incidentally, I'm sure if my good friend on the other side would ask his comrade in St. Vincent, would find that the same company that is going to build here in St. Lucia is the one which built the St. Vincent Argyle International Airport. So now you know, I'm sure you're happy. And so you'll give the support. So let me get back to the point. The point is that notwithstanding the fact that St. Vincent now has an international airport, we still have an advantage over St. Vincent because St. Vincent doesn't have the room capacity to be able to attract the number of aircrafts into St. Vincent because it's just a few hotels they have. So we still have that advantage. But they also can have an advantage on us. On the other hand, if they decide to go in hub, if at all they're able to put in the necessary facilities, the proper facilities, and to be able to do hubbing throughout the region, with Liat being the regional carrier, and St. Vincent being one of the shareholders. So we cannot allow this opportunity to happen, to go away. You move to Barbados to the east, 99 miles away, and in the last few years, Barbados has been able to improve on the airport infrastructure and are now revisiting the whole idea of the Grantley Adams Airport to possibly expand and to provide even better facilities. But Barbados is already ahead of us. Well, that's a model. It's a model. It's a model. We all agree that there are different models, you know. It's like Christianity. One member goes through the Adventist church. I am Roman Catholic. But I'm sure if we are both sinless, we will both end up in heaven. Yes, I'm sure of that. We'll both end up in heaven. That's what I feel. Being sinless? After the parliament, after the session, I'll let you know. Mr. Speaker, that's not for you. So, Mr. Speaker, let's look further north. Let's see what has happened in Antigua. Antigua, in the last 7 years, since we indicated that we're building a new airport, Antigua has gone ahead and they have redeveloped the airport. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe the time has come for us to agree that the people of St. Lucia not only need an airport, but the people of St. Lucia need a facility that will generate even more economic activity through the services that that airport will offer whenever it's open. And the people who will benefit most will be the people in the south. People from Vieux Fort North, Vieux Fort South, Labrie, Choiseul, and surrounding areas. Soufrière, of course, will be benefiting. But, Mr. Speaker, as we say this, the airport in itself and the other facilities of the cruise port, the home porting, and all the activity that will come in there with DSH, etc., will call for other amenities to be set up. And at some stage, I'm sure the Prime Minister will come to the Parliament to indicate what those are and what the economic and social benefits to be derived for the people of St. Lucia. So in closing, Mr. Speaker, I believe it is imperative on my part, and I'm obliged, to take the opportunity to extend, as Minister responsible for infrastructure, ports, energy, and labor, to extend my sincerest thanks to the government and people of the Republic of China on Taiwan. They have, over the years, particularly in the period ever since 2007, been very supportive of successive administrations. They have played their part in education, in agriculture, in tourism, in infrastructure, and for me and for many, they are seen as true friends, loyal friends, and friends who are with us to give us the necessary support. So with those few words, Mr. Speaker, I stand and I conclude on this matter in support of the guarantee which is being requested here today, a guarantee for the approval, rather, for the guarantee of a loan of $100 million US for the reconstruction and redevelopment of the Hewanorra International Airport. I thank you.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm conflicted because I know that there is this knowledge festival that's taking place right now. I certainly don't intend to be very long in my wrap-up speech, and I'm suggesting that maybe I just go very quickly, wrap up, and then my suggestion is we consider breaking for at least an hour and a half at dinner in order to give the festival time to proceed, and we can come back afterwards, because clearly we still have many more things left to take. It's only for 2 hours. That's what they said. I'm just going by what the people told me. So, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Prime Minister, Member for Library. Member for Library, you speaking to this motion?
Yes. Can we come back?
suggest that we suspend the House for 2 hours. $8 My understanding is the show, Mr. Speaker. I mean, I don't know whether the music is going to bother, but the information I've been given is that they're on hold while we're in session, and they've asked us for 2 hours. So I'm suggesting that we take a 2-hour break, unless you want to try to squeeze it in an hour and a half. But I'm just going according to what I've been advised of, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, then I'd like to suggest we suspend the House for an hour and a half and come back at, what would that be? 1 hour would be 7:15, 7:45.
Honorable
I suggest we suspend for an hour and a half, or if you want to suspend for an hour or an hour and 15 minutes, see how the noise affects us, and maybe we can proceed. But at least we still have to break for dinner nonetheless.
Honorable members, the question is that this House be suspended for the next hour. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. House is suspended for the next hour.